Hello, welcome. This is Anime Zone. Today I will be discussing Sword Art Online, the latest season, and some of my problems with it in general. So, Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online is a show that I have a very complicated relationship with because when I first watched it, I just started watching anime. I watched it and I loved it. But this was the me before before I started to love good storytelling. Not to say that Sword Art Online was badly written, but it was just so okay for me that it's never been bad, but it's never been great neither. And that all changed for me when season 3 came out, or the Alicization arc, which I think was the first time I was actually like, wow, Sword Art Online is actually pretty good. And then season 4 came out and it followed up with pretty well because Kirito wasn't around. So no more invincible protagonist Kun to save the day. And I was impressed because I was like, if we can keep this up till the end, then it actually might become a good show that doesn't need to be hated on by doesn't need to be hated on too much. But that didn't happen because this latest season has really been vexing me, and just with the bad writing in it that I really don't like. And I did a video before, but I was just ranting in it, so I'm re-recording this because I want to have a more level-headedness to it. Um, Let's begin with the first episode of this latest season. I think it's season 5. It starts literally with one of the girls, Lifa, getting tentacled. This happens in the first episode. One of your main girls, your main strong female protagonist, is getting tentacled, and she even gets one to her vagina from the way they put it. And it's like, this is not what this is not what you should be putting in your show. Um, I mean, I've never really thought Sword Art Online was great at writing, especially female characters, but this is just one step too far because it immediately turned me off. It's done this so many times now with the rape scenes and just girls getting abused like twice, 3 times. This makes it like the 4th time, I think. And I just rolled my eyes. I skipped through that whole part because I was just like, I don't want this. I didn't come here for this. And it just bothered me that I thought the author learned his lesson and didn't put that in anymore, but nope. He had to put it back in, and it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, do what you want. But that's not really a big problem. I would say one of the main problems that I have right now that I'm really noticing that the cast is too big and they're too underdeveloped. None of the characters ever got a development, and this will relate to the point I will give in the future. But it's all because of one reason: the first arc of the show, the Sword Art Online arc, the Stuck in the Game arc. This arc. Literally, you can solve every problem in this arc, but obviously because that's the start of the show, right? But I'll reach to that when I get to it. First of all, I need to make a video of harems because I just want to say that I really don't like harems, and Sora Online is one of them who like rides that line in between making me really vexed with the harem part of it to really um being okay with it, not loving it or liking it, just okay with it, just not minding it. My favorite part of season 3 was that they got rid of the harem aspect and just added the guy who looks like Armin. I forgot his name. And he's it was better because it had a very developed friendship there, and I think that was the best like character writing that's done in a while. Because when it comes to Sword Art Online and its characters, like you don't feel the chemistry. I don't feel the chemistry at least. Klein is there. Klein is talking to Asuna, and they're talking all good and that, and he's supposed to be like, let me don't do all the work and leave me in the spotlight. And it's like they're so typical that I could guess how they would interact. I could guess how every character would say to each other because they're not diverse. They don't have anything past the surface level, and if they did, it was only for one arc, and then they just kind of like fall in the sidelines. Or some of them don't even get development like Klein, and it's just like I don't feel any friendship here. I don't feel any connection. I don't have any connection towards them. And then this leads into one of my biggest issues, which is the Sword Art Online villains. I've never been a fan of the cartoony villains in anime, you know, the ones that just laugh like ha ha ha, I'm evil. I've never liked them and I don't think I ever will. It just irritates me, and it irritates me to the core, because I love good writing and I love being like, wow, that was a pretty well written villain. I love like not siding with the villain but understanding his perspective. But when you come in this season and you give me villains like this, it's just I'm here like sitting down and I'm like, are you kidding me? I thought we learned this already, because season 3 had a great villain with the immortal girl that had purple hair. I forgot her name. She was a good villain. She was a good villain for the show, and she was definitely the best that was there so far. The first arc, the season 1 villain, that could have been a good villain, but he never had a reason for trapping people in the game. So, you know, like kind of, it was like, oh, whatever. I just did it because, and that kind of ruined it for me. But he had the potential to be a good villain if he just had a good motivation and more interactions. I think that any good villain needs to have a lot of interactions with the protagonist or protagonists. But with these villains, it's like they have no character apart from their basic evilness or whatever. Especially these two main guys. I want to talk about the two main villains right now. There's the main guy who likes souls, and then there's this second in command, and that's how I'll refer them. The guy who likes souls and the second in command. Let's start with the guy who likes souls. He's the main villain, and he is as generic as you can get. At least he's not smiling the whole time, but it's like, I don't care about him. I honestly don't care about him. I don't find him threatening. I don't care about him at all. I don't care with his affection for souls. That doesn't make sense. The Flocklight thing doesn't even make sense. Um, None of this really just doesn't appeal to me. None of it's just not good writing on his part. And I'm hearing that he's even less developed than he was in the light novels, which is like, wow. Like, anime, what are you doing? Come on. I guess it just, if he's already a cartoony villain, might as well keep making him a cartoony villain, right? Like, why try fleshing him out? But whatever, it doesn't matter. And then there's the second villain, the second in command guy, who is just he's the most cartoony guy ever. And let's talk about the army that they bring. They're like red army that comes from America and China and Japanese or whatever. It's so dumb because they're supposed to be just regular people who play RPGs, right? Or Nerve Gear, who use that, and they're just supposed to be like, oh, they ask for help, sure, I'll join. But they this is not good writing, because people wouldn't just act like this. People wouldn't just believe in this just because you say war. Like, that's not how it works. People don't believe shallow lies like the Japanese are hacking. Why don't you just turn off the servers then? Like, it's not hard. Why do you need a whole army like this? It's so dumb, and it's just an excuse to get like a big villain army there. And I feel like the author should have made this an actual isekai instead of just making it like a game thing, because I think the real world logic to it really like drags the show down, because the author has to do so many things just to get the story to happen, and I really couldn't care less about those things like the flocklights, the underworld, and the computers and all of that. It's just too much, man. He should have just made it into a fantasy, or he should have just stayed with the original game, which already had enough material that he could have stretched that out for years, but he didn't decide to. But now here's where we get to this. To the major problem that I really want to mention. Season 1, or the Sword Art Online arc, right? The first arc should have been longer. It should have been a book for every level. No, that would have been too much. Maybe like every 5 levels or every 10 levels is one book. And then he could have finished the thing in like 10 books. Because it was 100 levels to finish the Sword Art Online Castle, right? Or the whatever it's called. But the author decided to do a lot of time jumps, and the anime only did like 15 episodes in the actual place. And that's not enough, because the author then wants to bring back events from back then that we haven't seen, things that he never wrote about, things that he never put in the original show, and the things that the show don't have. Like, for example, in season 2, Kirito killed people from the Laughing Coffin. They had to set that thing up from the beginning, because like if you just bring it up now in the second season, like why would I care? I never saw this happen, so it just feels like a retcon. It feels forced, and that's how it felt in the second season. It felt forced because they just mention it randomly, and then now suddenly he remembers and he's filled with guilt. Didn't look like to me like when he didn't look like he had full of guilt when he was actually in the game, but whatever. Um, Now there's this other one right here as well, because this latest season has the second in command guy. Apparently he's the leader of the Laughing Coffins, or was the leader of the Laughing Coffins, and both Asuna and Klein are like, oh my god, I can't believe it. It's this guy. Or no, I must be thinking, or I must be looking wrong, or my eyes must not be working. It can't be him. And it's like I don't care. I can't buy any of this because it was never set up. It would have been so much better. It would have been like they set this up way back in season one. I would have been like, oh, but instead I'm just like, what? Who is this? Did we see him before? That's how I feel like, and it's like if you bring him back for what? What's the point? So what if he's part of the storyline? What will that add to the story? Literally nothing, because he wasn't an interesting character back then, because guess what? He was never written before, and this is the first time we're seeing him, and he's not an interesting character now. Guess what? Because he's just a cartoony villain who laughs up. Ha 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 ha! Look at my army. They're hacking. Come on, guys. Ha 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 ha. It frustrates me, and I just want a show to have good writing, and it sucks because Sword Art Online had such good potential, but the author really messed up. Such a great concept, but the author just messed it up. And you can tell this very clearly in Gun Gale Online, the spin off to Sword Art Online. Um, Gun Gale Online Unlimited, or whatever it's called, the one with the pink girl, which is like a spin off which was done by a different writer, and you could tell the difference because that's probably like the best Sword Art Online has ever been. So it's like the writing is the problem here. The guy writing, the author, is the problem. The concepts can bring amazing stories, but it's just this is what we're getting. Which is sad because my opinion of the show was so high. Well, not high, but it was good. It was getting good. It was getting more on the positive side. But now it looks like it's going back to the negative. The only positive thing that I can say is that the animation and the actions are still cool. So there's that, right? But anyways, whatever. That's all I have to rant about. I really think that just for advice, right? If you ever plan to write a story, because I'm writing a story at the moment, it's gonna be like 1,000 pages long. I want it to be, and this is one of the problems I don't want to fall into. That I notice that a lot of things do, like don't retcon things, don't set things up and plan things ahead, because this is if you just pull it out of your ass like that, no one's gonna care. Not me, not the audience, no one. It's whether you're reading it, but whether you're watching it, and it's and then if you wanna, if you're so bad to pull it up your ass, and you're like, I really, really, really wanna use this character, then actually make them interesting, because this isn't it, and this is not it. Not having interesting villains really can bring down a show, and the show doesn't really have anything else to offer apart from trashy harem stuff. So, come on. I think with all the main prevalent characters coming back, the show has like downgraded in quality. I think it was better when it was just the newer characters, because they weren't as generic as, or just as like empty as the other ones. Um, it's true what they say, like everybody thinks Sword Art Online is a good anime when they first watch it, but then when you watch a lot of animes and you go back to it, you realize how much of a, well, how badly written it is. But whatever. Yeah, this was a short rant. With all that said, thank you for listening. Have a nice day.